What was the breaking point?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a breaking point so much as I left my last organization a little over a year ago. I'd been there about 10 years, grew with them from Series A all the way to Series E. I just felt like it was time for me to step back and do something else. So I left that role and I didn't know what I was going to do next. I actually just sat there and I was like, okay, what's next? Do I just go ski every day of the remaining year? Not that you could ski all year, sorry. But anyways, what do I do? Do I just take a break? And obviously I'm not obviously, but I'm no good at sitting on my hands. And so I got to do something. And I was like, shoot, I've been doing security for a dozen years at this point. That's what I know. I'm good at it. So the original intent with Dark Horse was to create, okay, because I know how much people would pay at the prior organization. And I was like, you know what? That's pretty expensive and it's not accessible to everyone. What about the small businesses? What about organizations that don't have a ton of money? And so the idea was I'll go build a solution for them, right? An accessible platform that makes it easy to use and it makes it super affordable. And so that's a mission of Dark Horse is not to build this $1 billion company right now. We're just trying to make security more accessible for organizations, which, it wasn't really a breaking point. It was just, let's see if we can make the world a little more secure.
So you've talked about security theater. What's an example that made you cringe?
Ooh. The obvious answer is for me, because this is where I've lived, it's in the pen testing world. I've seen people deliver pen tests that they just do a port scan and they're like, oh, it's a pen test. Or they run a vulnerability scanner and they're like, oh, it's a pen test. And they sit there and they say, okay, this checks the box. And so they move on with it. And I'm just like, no, that does not at all qualify for being a comprehensive assessment or even reasonably trying to penetrate your systems. And again, there's a lot of different ways that people can shortchange themselves and in the name of checking a given box.
In your opinion, what's a tool or service that should come with a giant label that warning, marketing BS?
Oh no.
Because I've seen a lot on the project management software development side. Trust me, I've seen a lot of these.
Yeah, and I'm sure I could come up with an answer if I spend some time on it. Again, I don't necessarily, because getting pen testing isn't a waste. It's not a bad thing to do. It's just if you get it through some existing channels, right? It's going to be inefficient and it's going to be overly expensive, but it's not, don't do this. I'm not totally sure just off the top of my head what I would put into the bucket of don't do. Now, I'm absolutely confident that I could come up with a list. And of course, I'm just blanking in this very moment. But yeah, so I don't have a good answer for you. Obviously, again, I can defer to you because you're probably more on the side of seeing all the different tools that get purchased. Again, I just see what they buy from me and I know that, or what they spend with other people for these solutions. And so my goal is not to say, don't use other solutions so much as, or not, don't do these things so much as do these things and we'll do it far more affordably and efficiently.
Yeah, for me, it was a lot of the quote productivity tools for developers that really all they did was dumb down the developer and make them not remember things that they probably should be using on a daily basis. Things like putting the syntax to something in a single button, and then they would just click. I remember when I was a kid, I knew everybody's phone number by heart. Nowadays, I have to stop and remember my wife's phone number because it's just a button that I push and it calls her. And it was the same thing. I was getting developers that were getting stuck with things because in that context, the tool didn't bring that button up. And they're going, I don't remember how to do this. Yeah, that's because you're relying on this stupid button over here. So if you had to stand in front of 1,000 CISOs tomorrow and say just one sentence about how they're wasting their money, what would you say?
One sentence. Try Dark Horse.
It could be a run-on sentence. That'd be okay.
Forward.
Exactly.
Two. Yeah, it's just the legacy tools are just that legacy. We've been doing pen testing right now, pen testing is still delivered the same way it was delivered 30 years ago. And people do the same thing